Once again, welcome everyone. Before going to the next session, I would like to clarify some aspects from the previous session. So I want to show three things. So one is, we were talking about the BMS. So I would like to introduce you people to one of the BMS which is available in the market, in which even I have worked actually in some of the part. So this is actually a company called Lithium Balance, company based out in Denmark. And right now, but the whole BMS actually, most of the important parts are actually being developed in-house in India, basically. But end of the day, the company is based out in Denmark. So we have gained a lot of know-how on BMS by working with this project only. So let me show a typical specification. How so this is an example of CBMS. So basically, this company, they name it as SBMS and CBMS. So and this is basically suitable for different applications. And SBMS, you can note it down here. So this is basically suitable for bigger vehicles, even trucks and applications as well. Let me show one by one. First, I'll take the CBMS concept. You can see that if you remember, can any participant answer this question? Like which type of balancing that do you think is most suitable for two-wheeler like applications? Any answers? Which type of balancing technique was seen suitable for two-wheeler kind of low-budget applications? As per my previous session, or as per the knowledge already you have? Yes. So it is passive balancing, right? It is passive balancing. So in the passive balancing specifically, you can see that this is particular example. This CBMS, it is an example for a passive balancing BMS. And let me zoom this. So this is the BMS board. This is the BMS board which is actually there. And let us look at the safety ratings. You can clearly see that it is rated with ISO 26262 for component and component design, and it has been tested and redundancy verified for all safety critical measurement circuits. And you can see that the high frequency sampling, that is very, very important, right? The sampling and holding circuit, how much samples it can take, sampling of current at 100 milliseconds, and allows optimal detection of pulses. And you can see the passive balancing at 200 milliampere per cell. So that is the amount of the supply it can provide. And at the end of the day, the performance, that is the accuracy of this BMS, is plus or minus 1.5 millivolt is the accuracy of this system. And we can see the temperature measurement accuracy is plus or minus 1 degree Celsius. So that's where the this BMS comes like. And look at the specifications in detail. So I'll be sharing this also to all the email IDs after all the sessions. Fifth day I'll share all the information, what are all the related information possible from my side. So you can see the power supply for this BMS is 6 to 35 volt. Range of high voltage measurement is up to 120 volt. And means what? So if, for example, if one cell is having 3.7 volt, it can maximum, as per this particular thing, we can maximum handle up to certain number of cells depending upon the maximum voltage it can handle. And similarly, the range of current measurement, accuracy of the temperature, and the CAN. Basically, this BMS is using CAN bus protocol. So they have mentioned what is the specifically the CAN communication type. It is actually 2.0 ARB, 11-bit and 29-bit ID. And CAN ports, so basically they are providing number of CAN ports, that is also mentioned there. And number of cells it can work is up to 24 cells. See, it is mentioned very clearly, up to 24 cells this particular CBMS can handle. And overall cell balancing topology, it is using dissipative topology. That means what? It is the passive balancing technique. They call it as dissipative cell balancing topology. And the cell balancing current is around 200 milliampere. And the cell balancing cell voltage typical sampling rate is 100 milliseconds. So this is what the information available. Totally, they are allowing up to 6 sensors. We can attach up to 6 temperature sensors in this particular BMS as inputs, right? So this is a typical CBMS. And this is an example of SBMS. So specification sheet, yes, let me just open that. So this is a SBMS system. As I told, you can say it's like a central type of system application. Where especially in higher vehicles, as I mentioned, for passenger, say you can see a truck. Application or forklift application, even bigger applications, for ships and other applications also they can use this, such a high-end application, and it can work. You can look at the voltage rating. It can work up to 12 volt to 1000 volt DC, and up to 256 cells can be connected in series for this particular BMS. That is a maximum number of cells that could be connected in series with this BMS. And same thing, it is also a CAN communication based system. It has both SOC, SOH estimation, leak current detection, thermal management. All these are applicable in this BMS system, right? And on the charger side, charger side also it has interface, so it can provide information related to the charging system for this area. And you can also look at the ratings they provided. Very importantly, the EMI EMC rating. So in this BMS, they have clearly mentioned that this particular BMS is EMC immunity as tested as per EN 61000043. That's a standard specifically for the EMI EMC of END systems in electric vehicle. So that's the specifications. I'll share this copy to all the participants. That's one aspect I want to share. And another aspect is, I want to showcase one diagnostic tool as well. The BMS which I shown you there in the previous PDF, it is also having a diagnostic tool. So if in case, if there is a manufacturer, he want to understand any sort of failure, any sort of diagnostic faults arising from the BMS, they can use this diagnostic software to understand the failure or anything. Actually, we have in our Center of Excellence design, we have basically, I don't know whether I have informed you that we actually do Center of Excellence for institutions. So in that Center of Excellence, we do have these softwares included actually. So they start from 10 lakh till 1 crore. The Center of Excellence are there. Basically, funding will be like from central government organizations. So these are all different, the BMS setup. And basically this diagnostic tool, what we are showing here, it can showcase all activities running in a BMS: cell management activity, pack management activity, interface between the CAN interface between the charging and the battery system. All diagnostic activity it can perform. Let me zoom this interface picture so that you can get a idea about it. It will show you the SOC level. It will show you the current rating, current running in the battery pack in and out, and voltage ratings, and what is the highest cell voltage difference. The voltage difference between the highest cell and the lowest cell, and highest temperature in the battery pack. All these informations will be very clearly visible in the diagnostic interface. So it will be very useful for a person to service and diagnose and find the faults and any error signal related to the cell balancing, related to the any part of the BMS. I think you people are aware now all the functions of the BMS. So any error signal related to any functions of the BMS would be clearly indicated here with a number for them, right? So that is one case. So you can see the graphical plots for critical parameters. They are updated in real time. That is, as I told, 100 milliseconds. For every 100 milliseconds, you will be able to get the accurate readings in the system. And important battery information always available and updated. It is provided here. And diagnostic software, in this, if you go further, you can look at the cell data. Each and every cell level, if there are like 200 cells are there, each and every cell data can be seen here very clearly, how the cell is behaving and how is the voltage rating of the cell behaving, whether it is within the threshold. All these things we can monitor. And similarly, voltage, over voltage, overshoot protection, over voltage protection, under voltage protection, everything you can visualize in this diagnostic tool very clearly. Even you can set the timing, at what time you need to let the customer know of, let the error message shoot up when there is a leak detected, or when there is a over voltage detected. All these things can be modified, can be optimally changed by the customer, right? So all these things are mentioned here. You can see cell overshoot window, cell threshold values. We can define it. It is flexible. We can define it for the particular BMS. That is the benefit this company is providing, Lithium Balance. So in future, if you are going to purchase any BMS or anything, for your projects, I would strongly recommend, this particular company. And let us to make it, more interesting. Can you people answer these questions about the BMS discussion, and then we'll go for the next topic. First question is, what are the safety critical control parameters in a BMS? Cell voltage, cell temperature, max charge and discharge current, and all of the above. Can you people answer this question? All these questions. What are the safety critical control parameters in a BMS? Cell voltage, cell temperature, max charge current, max discharge current, or all of the above?
All of the above.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your answer, sir. And next question is, what are the error conditions BMS is supposed to detect? It is actually all of the above, but it is a mistake. So both over voltage, under temperature, leak detection, right? All these are actually conditions to be detected by the BMS. Is it right or not? There is a mistake in this question actually, yes. And what about this one? What are the BMS features used by service engineers? Data logging, odometer, error log that generated in the system, and all of the above. So we saw that some of the data received from the BMS going to different places. One is using a CAN data logger. We can use data logging feature, and any sort of important information like temperature and all these things, it will be visible in the odometer. That means the meter, the display of the system, the SOC data, all these things, and error log information will be available in the diagnostic tool for the engineer. So the answer is all of the above. And what are the different types of interfaces for communication between the charger and the BMS? So basically, these are all types of communication is possible between the charger and the BMS typically, but more in this particular charger, in this particular SBMS, what I mentioned, they mostly use RS-232 between the charger and the BMS. But internally, inside the BMS, it is CAN communication, right? So different interfaces are possible actually in this case. And what is this answer for this final question? SOC is it a estimation? Is it a measurement? Is it a parameter, or is it a configuration? Do you remember my explanation? Is it a SOC means is it coming under estimation? Is it coming under a measurement category, or is it a parameter based category, or it is a configuration? What do you people think? Any answers? Do you people remember my explanation? SOC estimation, SOH estimation. So basically, we can't measure the SOC level directly from a system. So SOC is nothing but it is a value which is dependent on multiple factors. So it is actually estimated. It is a factor which is estimated based upon open circuit voltage, based upon the available internal parameters of the battery pack, right? So it is basically coming under the estimation category. So thank you for involving in the question and answer part?
Sir, I have a query. This
Yes. Tell me, sir.
like battery utilization is also a part of BIS. Battery utilization.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I can hear you.
Battery utilization is also a part of the BIS.
What's
Battery
that?
utilization.
Battery?
Battery utilizer is also part. Equalizer.
Equalizer. Okay, okay. Sir, battery
Yeah.
equalizer is nothing but battery balancing. Both are same.
All right. Okay. I'm actually traveling,
Both
so
are
I'm
same.
not able to.
Equalizer and
Okay.
balancing. Okay, okay, sir. Okay, okay, sir. So battery
Okay.
balancing
Thank you
and
so much.
equalizer both are same. Yes.
Okay.
So let me come to the presentation. Yes. So what we are going to discuss now is about the EV charging system technology. So before that, I think we have covered various topics: inverter, motor, and now today BMS. Today morning we have seen, right? So today now next aspect is going to be the charging station, charging system technology, which is one of the very important aspect today. So you need to understand what are all the challenges behind the charging system technology, right? So we need to understand that how it is going to impact on the overall electrification process, right? So let us dive deep into this right now. See, one of the primary function of an electric vehicle charging system is basically to regulate the electric current. So end of today, if we see two-wheeler, three-wheeler, passenger car or a truck, bus, different segments of vehicle, even including quadricycle, right? Different segments of vehicles are there. Each and every vehicle has their own, each and every vehicle has their own charging requirement, right? Today I am seeing in the Indian market, they are using a common charger, the same charger for all different vehicles. Some of the startup companies I'm saying. So that is definitely not acceptable. For every charger, every charger, for there is a specific requirement. So for every battery, there is a specific requirement. So it cannot be satisfied by all chargers, which can be used for it cannot work in such a way actually, right? So the charger has to be specifically tested and developed for a certain application for a battery pack. So it is very important. So today we are seeing chargers from many ratings. I'll show that different ratings of chargers, and I will also show you some different specifications at the end of the session. So basically, the electric vehicle supply equipment. That's how we should call this charging stations. So this electric vehicle supply equipments, they are the main function of them is basically to regulate the electric current. So ensure that the optimal current is provided and falls within the maximum current that the EV can handle. And the AC/DC residual current detection is also one of the key function performed by the charging system. And also relays and contactor drive. So it doesn't mean that charging station means it is only doing charging activity. It also is responsible for operating the relays or the contactors at any point of time, during the operation of the charging station or during any safety critical conditions. It should be able to operate the relays. So we need to consider all these things, and for a charging system design, automatic disconnect. That means shut off the power when a fault is detected to avoid risks like battery damage, electrical shorts, or fires. There are many incidents happened in the past, especially in countries like China and Japan. Battery packs, battery electric vehicles have catched fire. But during the charging, most of the battery electric vehicle fires have happened during the charging time only. It is not during the running time or during other activity. During the charging time only, during the charging activity only, most of the fires have happened. But don't think electric vehicles are very unsafe. Not like that. They are actually, the number of fire accidents happened in electric vehicle, it's very low compared to the number of fire accidents happened with petrol diesel vehicle. So kindly check with the National Fire Protection Association details on the website. You can go through the website. It is very clearly mentioned that electric vehicles fire is very rare, and it is very rarely happening. We can see that the Hyundai Kona incident, out of 82,000 cars, 16 cars have actually catched fire, right? So after a number of years of time, but still, even though it is just 16 cars, they the situation is like, the countries, they consider it like it is almost 0.0195% of the total vehicles sold, right? But still safety constraint has to be met. Whatever be the number of fire accidents happening, even that 0.0195% fire accidents happened in that electric vehicle, it is considerable for a safety agency, right? So that is why we need to be very careful when developing. So the charging system, the problem is, it is something which is going to be an interface between the grid and the vehicle, right? The charging system is going to be placed between the grid and the vehicle. So any problem in the charging station, it can either affect the grid or the vehicle. So it is having a huge potential to create a damage both towards the grid or towards the vehicle. So we need to be very careful when we select the charging system for a EV application, right? So when we look at the battery charging methodology of electric vehicle domain, most of the companies, as I mentioned earlier today morning, they are following the constant current, constant voltage, CCCV charging methodology only. So we can very clearly notice the constant current, constant voltage methodology. So initially, when the charging is applied for the battery, initially a constant current, for example, 2.5 ampere of current is being continuously provided constantly, and then for after the period of time, once the battery reached a certain voltage, immediately then what happens from this point of time, it will become a constant voltage charging. So the charge current will be little by little, it will be slowly brought down, and there will be a voltage will become constant at this point of time. So for example, 4.2 means 4.2 will become constant from this point of time, but the current rating will be slightly coming down. So this is the charging methodology applied in most of the EV application, right? So when we look at the charging process, there are classified into onboard and off-board charging system, which is available in the market today. Both these options are available in the most of the electric vehicles available in the market, right? Both the off-board charging and on-board charging. So it's depend upon the total amount of kilowatt of power, total amount of kilowatt of power that the battery is going to take towards it, for the charging process. Depending on that, they have classified that into onboard and off-board charging. So we can see that the onboard charger, which is only applicable up to 6.6 kilowatt for a level 2, we call it as a 3.3 kilowatt. It's a level 1 charger, and 6.6 kilowatt means it is a level 2 charger, right? And so you can calculate it very easily, like 6,600 kilowatt divided by 240 volt in India means it is like for around 30 ampere current will be supplied continuously, right? In this case, right? And if it is this case 3.3 kilowatt, it is a 15 ampere current. So we can understand 15 ampere means nothing but our normal household plug, which can handle this 15 ampere current. right, which is already providing 15 ampere current. So we are basically the slow chargers coming under the onboard charging condition, and fast chargers more than 20 kilowatt capacity up to 80 kilowatt, they are all coming under the fast off-board charging capability. So the off-board chargers are basically designed to transfer higher kilowatt of power, as I mentioned, and obviously it requires a more sophisticated BMS for the system because it's a very high power requirement. And the onboard charger is generally designed for low kilowatt application, right? And so at the same time, the only drawback is we need to have a onboard charger, onboard DC to AC converter, basically inside the system. Sorry, AC to DC converter inside the system, which can convert the low power AC signal into a high power DC output to the battery system. So obviously we need to have the additional component. If it is an onboard charger, basically that is like going to sit inside the charger directly, right? If you look at the overall charging configuration, AC, DC charging, both the chargers are available. So as I told, this AC charging is basically the onboard charger. You can look at this. See, the plug is connected to the home, and there will be a low power, a low AC voltage coming into the system. It gets converted into a high voltage output, and then it goes to the battery. If it is a DC charger, which is directly powering the high power DC, high voltage DC, which will be like more than 50 kilowatt, 30 kilowatt, 50 kilowatt output power at a voltage close to 400 voltage, 600 voltage and all, right? So those who are DC charging directly comes to the battery through the BMS because it does not need any conversion, right? So that is the AC versus DC charging system available in the market. And when you look at the AC charging, you can look at, as we see that it is basically going inside the AC DC converter, and then it is going to the battery BMS. So typical voltage ratings will be like 230 volt for the voltage rating, and current ratings will be like 12 ampere to 16 ampere range. And for the level 2 AC charging, the voltage rating will be like polyphase 240 volt AC ratings, and the current rating in this case of level 2 will be ranging from 15 ampere to up to 80 ampere of current is possible in this case, right? So that is the level 2 charging. And the DC charging system is basically, as I mentioned earlier, they can handle up to 300 to 750 volt DC supply, and maximum up to 400 ampere current is possible to be directly supplied to the battery through the BMS, right? If in case, if it is a DC charging system, obviously the bypass will happen on the onboard charger. If in case even the vehicle is having a onboard charger, if we are providing DC supply, obviously it does not need any conversion. It will directly bypass and go for the battery BMS. So that's the process, right? So let us understand the flow, general outlook of a layout of a AC charging system. So basically any AC charging system available in the market, these are the components which are present in the AC charging system. One of the main component is the current and voltage monitoring unit present inside the charger. So whatever the amount of current, whatever the amount of voltage entering into the charger from the grid, that has to be completely monitored, and it has to be seen whether that is coming under the threshold values, upper and lower threshold values. And similarly, there will be a power relay, AC power relay, which is provided in the charger. So this power relay can provide additional support, and it is supporting the charging system if in case any sort of over voltage or over current at any point of time, the relays will be operated. So we have a separate power relay control for that. And vehicle interface is present between the charger and the vehicle. So basically that will show what is the amount of current coming to the battery from the charger, or from the amount of current that is going inside the vehicle. It also verifies the state of the vehicle, whether the vehicle is in live state or non-live state, charging state, discharging state. All these things will be like, it is the interface which is measuring that, providing that information. And we also have a HMI interface, the human machine interface, and the external communication. Here is where the charger will display the amount of current which is flowing inside the charger, and amount of the battery being charged, percentage of SOC. All this information will be showcased using this HMI and external communication. And vehicle communication, that means through the vehicle communication only, the vehicle, the charger and the vehicle communicate together to understand how much amount of power is being provided to the vehicle at any point of time. And finally, all these activities are actually controlled by a system controller, and system controller is nothing but has so many internal switching components, and all these switching components are provided with the low voltage supply using AC/DC converters, right? So that's the input side. So overall, so current and voltage monitoring, AC power relay, vehicle interface, AC/DC converter, system controller, vehicle communication module, human machine interface, all these makes up a charging station. All these are different parts of a charging station which is used in the electric vehicle domain. And similarly, for a DC charging system, almost all the components will remain same. Only few differences are there. One is like the power factor correction, which is added in front of the system. And you can see in addition to that, there will be a DC-DC converter, because this AC charging is basically, the output is AC here, but on the DC charging, it has to be a DC output. So here AC is converted into DC, low voltage DC, and then a low voltage DC is converted into a high voltage DC, which can be supplied to the electric vehicle. Other than that, everything remains same: vehicle interface, HMI, vehicle communication, and system controller is designed accordingly for to operate a DC-DC converter as well. Right, so the power factor correction stage is added stage in the DC charging station. It basically ensures that input current is in phase with the grid voltage, thus improving the grid's overall power factor. And there is a multi-level AC/DC converter stage there, which takes the polyphase AC from the grid and converts that into a high voltage DC. And secondary level high voltage DC/DC converter is provided, which can generate a stable DC for transfer to the EV, which will bypass the onboard charger on the power stage. Right, so this is the DC and AC charging and DC charging circuit. So let us look at, let us deep dive into a specific onboard charger. So this is an example of a charging system circuit. We can very clearly see it is split into two different circuits basically. One is the input side, where we have a EMI filter. So we have the input current coming to the system, input power, and we have an EMI filter in the beginning to filter the unnecessary electromagnetic interferences, to safeguard all the components of the electromagnetic charging system. And in addition to that, we have the switch control. Here only we have the relay operation. So basically, at any point of time, if there is any sort of fault diagnosed by the charger, immediately the relay has to be operated. So we have the relay control present in this particular point. And we also have the diode bridge rectifier, so present in this part, and that is part of this charger. And we have an interleaved PFC stage. Interleaved PFC stage. So what is meant by interleaved PFC? Any participant, have you been working in interleaved PFCs anywhere before in any other application? Any participant? Interleaved PFC, anyone, have you worked previously with interleaved products or components? So it is basically splitting up, instead of using a single MOSFET, single capacitor, single inductor, multiplying the number of components, interleaving the components, and overall, maintaining the same functionality but with more efficiency. So that's why today the interleaved protocol, interleaved topology is what mostly preferred in onboard charger, electric vehicle inverter, many applications, right? So we see this interleaved PFC stage applied here, and we have the gate drivers because we have the MOSFET sitting inside there. So the gate drivers are also present there to operate these MOSFETs. And in addition to that, we have the full bridge DC-DC converter, phase shifted full bridge DC-DC converter, which is part of this charging system. So we have the typical, operating components for the same. And finally, we have the special MOSFETs and temperature measurement systems, current measurement systems. All these measurement systems give the input to the MCU, master control unit, and finally that regulates the overall DC-DC converter operation, on the charging system. Let me go deeper, further into this picture. right? If you look at this picture, for a 3.3 kilowatt charging station, it has been classified into three phases. One is the PFC stage, and one is the DC-DC primary stage, and second is the DC-DC secondary stage. You can very clearly, let me zoom that. See, this is the EMI filter. This is the EMI filter, and this is where the rectification happens. And we can very clearly see the PFC, the power factor correction system. We can see the inductor. We can see the MOSFET, which is sitting there, low side gate driver sitting there, and we can see the MOSFETs, which is getting operated for this PFC function. We can look at this capacitor as well here. So this is basically the PFC unit. And we have a dedicated interleaved PFC controller, which is basically operated by the low voltage supply. So you can see that we have the EMI filter, relay control, rectification stage, right? And a separate current measurement units placed at different places. Say, for example, you can look at this area where we use a current transformer to measure the current flow from the PFC stage into the DC-DC primary unit. Right. So likewise, voltage is also measured using isolated amplifiers. So those all these isolated amplifiers provide the necessary input for the master control unit, the microcontroller unit. So end of the day, all the decisions for the charging and discharging conditions, all the charging conditions will be decided based upon the voltage measurement data provided here and the current measurement data provided from the transformers. At the same time, here also we use something called flyback DC-DC converters. So to convert the high voltage, the high voltage input into a flyback DC-DC output. So here we get the 12 volt output, 16 volt output, because this 12 volt output is required to operate the phase shift full bridge controller components, and 16 volt input is required to operate the gate drivers, which are actually going to operate the MOSFETs present in the DC-DC converter. So all these are provided by the flyback DC-DC converter, which takes the 400 voltage input, the rectified input, and converts that into a low voltage output in the system. Basically, I think people are aware, all these low voltage outputs are required to operate the low voltage components inside the microcontroller, right? So basically, we split the charging station into EMI, EMC filtering, rectification stage, and then the PFC stage where the power factor correction happens, and then the primary side of the DC-DC converter where we are going to convert the that means from the low voltage, that means it converts, like end of the day, it is going to meet the stability, stable DC-DC requirement, right? You can look at this here. This is here the battery pack is placed. Look at this place. So the battery pack, this is where the charging is going to reach, but at the secondary level, the primary level also, there is a voltage measurement and current measurement happening. Even in the DC-DC secondary stage also, there is a isolated amplifier and op amplification combination to provide the voltage signal to the MCU. You can see the voltage signal coming to the MCU. At the same time, here we use the MOSFET temperature sensors as well. You can see very closely the MOSFET temperature sensors are both sitting inside both the positive, that means the primary side as well as the secondary side. We can very clearly see this temperature sensors also provide the information to the MCU. So with all this information only, the charger decides whether the charging can continue or the charging should stop, right? At any point of time, if there is an unintentional temperature rise on the battery pack, immediately that will be noted down from the system. Similarly, when the charger is applied, charger is functioning. When the MOSFET is reaching certain threshold temperature, immediately the MOSFET's temperature sensor will indicate that to the MCU, and the MCU will immediately respond to the same, right? So that is the overall view of a charging system, a typical 3.3 kilowatt charging system. And as more higher voltage, as the higher voltage charging systems are applied, obviously many new ASIL level, that means automotive safety integrity levels, and the ISO 26262 functional safety standards have to be followed at higher voltage as per the higher voltage requirements. So this is a typical charging system basically. So overall, it is basically a low-level charger. As I mentioned, when we go for a battery pack with higher voltage battery pack, obviously the higher voltage inputs will be required for the system. higher voltage outputs will be required from the battery BMS, from the battery charger. So obviously it needs to provide support such kind of higher voltages. So obviously there will be a lot of safety features additionally provided for that case, right? So for example, what are all the different level of safety provided, right? That it depends upon that. One of the safety feature provided is in the coupler itself, the charging coupler itself. They mentioned that there itself. So for example, level 1 AC charger, the coupler will look like this. So when you look at a AC charger coupler, it will look like this, and we have a AC power pin. We have we have a communication pin. Basically, here is where the communication signals between the charger and the vehicle pass through, and we have a connection detection pin. Basically, this pin will detect the amount of whether the vehicle is connected or not, whether the charger is connected to the vehicle or not, what is the state of connection. All these things will be possible. So only after this connection detection pin closes, then only your charger will start functioning, right? So don't think during applying the charging coupler, don't think there will be a spark. No, it will not come, because after the connection detection pin goes and closes the circuit, then only the power flow will start happening between the charger and the vehicle, right? So that is the strategy done by so basically I'll give the information about the standards related to that in the coming slides, and end of the day we will have a ground pin as well. So most of the charge coupler will follow the same type of design with some modifications. Say this is the level 3 charger, which is basically a fast charger. In this case, they have 2 communication pins and 2 high power charger pins. So here we don't have the connection detection pin and all. Instead of having that separately, they have a latch basically. So when you fix this charger into the vehicle, automatically this latch will open or close, right, depending upon the function. So this functions will indicate whether the charger is connected or not, or on stage or off stage. That is visible there. And some applications in across the world, we are using, the companies are using combo charger. So combo charger means they will fix this type of plug, female plug in the vehicle side, and the customer can use either a fast charger or a slow charger. So it's up to his decision. And all these chargers are actually designed as per the J1772 standard. So I would drop them as a message in the chat box. All these chargers are meeting the J1772 SAE standard. So I am putting that in the chat box. SAE J1772. That is a standard applicable for all the charging couplers basically available in the market, right, including Tesla. So Tesla has its own design, but it is actually meeting all the SAE J1772 requirement and all other IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission requirements as well. So, but its design it's their own design, but it all meets the requirements of the standards available in the market. So this is the charger used by Tesla. You can see the communication pin, connection detection pin, and power pins. So everything is available as like I mentioned here. And if you look at the Indian level, India level with respect to the charging station, charging system, in India we have specific standards for charging system. I would request the faculties to note it down in case if you are working in charging system area. So there are different standards like AC 001, DC 001 for 48 volt output charger, and DC 001 high output charger is also available. Both are actually mentioned in the same standard. And there is one more standard called IEC 62196, which is typically for level 2, type 2 charger, and CHAdeMO and CCS. These are all high voltage charging standards, right? So all the international companies, CHAdeMO is basically a Japanese company, a Japanese protocol, right? And CCS protocol is also available. Combined charging system protocol is also available in the market. And GB by T, that is the protocol followed by China for the charging system. So these are all the different Indian regulations. So basically the basic AC001, it is actually meeting the IEC 60309 standard. So if you are working in 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler related charger related projects, then you need to refer the IEC 60309 requirements for the charging system. So this is how it will look like. It's similar, a simple conventional plug which will be able to supply 15 ampere output, right? That's the Indian regulation, DC001, DC001. These are all simple Indian regulations. So let's understand, the signaling circuit of a typical charging system. So basically, when you look at the charging system on the whole, totally, as we've seen that totally 5 pins were there. So total 2 were power pins, and then there was a connection detection pin, and there was a pilot pin, and there was a proximity pin, right? So that is what you can, a ground pin finally. So you can see this is the ground pin, and you can look at this particular pin configuration number 4 and pin configuration number 5. Pin configuration number 4, it is basically the proximity pin. That means it is the pin which indicates whether a charger is connected or not, right? So you can see the proximity switch. So whenever the charger is connected, immediately the switch will close. That will indicate the charger, that the charger has been connected to the vehicle. Then the power flow will start happening. Then the relays will close, the power flow will happen. And you can look at this here, that pilot pin especially. The pilot pin is nothing but it is where the communication between the charger and the vehicle is happening. And what is the mode they are handling? They are using the PWM, pulse width modulation signals, to transfer the signal from the charger to the vehicle and from the vehicle to the charger. So let us understand how they use the PWM signal to transfer the communication. For example, there are like different states of operation for a charger, right? The status A, if it indicates status A, it means standby mode, and if it indicates status B, it indicates vehicle detected, and status C means ready for charging, status D means ready for charging but with ventilation only possible, and status E means no power shut off, and status F means error. So how the charger decides that this is the status of current status, charging status? That is possible because of the voltage signal coming from the system. Say for example, in this from the EVSE, from the charging control system controller, there will be a 12 volt input provided for the vehicle. Through the pilot communication, there will be a PWM signal with a 12 volt input will be provided to the system, and there will be a feedback coming from the system, right? And if the system is providing a 12 volt input, and if it is coming back as 12 volt again, it is called a standby mode. The charger will consider it as a standby mode. And if the charger is providing a 12 volt input, and if the feedback is coming as plus 9 volt, then it means for the charger that the vehicle is detected. And if the feedback is coming as plus 6 volt, it means the vehicle is ready for charging. And if the feedback is plus 3 volt, it means the temperature around the battery, charger, or the vehicle is very high, so it needs to be ventilated before starting the charging process. So and finally, if there is a minus 12 volt error signal coming from the vehicle, then it means there is an error signal raised in the charger. So this is how the vehicle charger communicates with the vehicle. So the communication happens between the battery charger and the vehicle side, right? So we can look at it. The charging station sends 1 kilohertz square wave on the control pilot that is connected back to the protected earth on the vehicle side by means of a resistor and a diode combination. So the overall, we can see based upon the resistor connected, you can look at it. There is a various resistors connected with this pilot line. So depending upon the status of the vehicle, the charge controller which is present in the vehicle side, that will connect different resistors according to the status of the vehicle. According to the resistors connected, the 12 volt plus 12 volt will be varied to different voltage levels as indicated here. That's how the communication happens between the charger and the vehicle, between them. And similarly, how to indicate, how the charger informs the vehicle that what is the amount of current that is going to be supplied from the charger. How it is indicated? That is also indicated using the PWM signal only. So for example, the charging system can use the wave signal to describe the maximum current that is available in the charging system. Say for example, if the charger is going to provide like 100% PWM, right? PWM signal from the charger side, right? And because who is going to decide what is the charging current? Can you participants tell me what is the component? Which is the component that is going to decide the charging current from a charger? Any participant? Can you give your answer? Which component inside the electric vehicle decides the or limits the amount of charging current from a charger? I think everyone know the answer. Quick answers, please. Which components do you people think? Which component do you think is maintaining, or it is actually controlling the charge current? Is it the inverter? Is it the motor? Any inputs from the participants? So if you remember the BMS operation, so we clearly saw that one of the important parameter is the charge current and discharge current for the BMS, isn't it? So it is the BMS which is actually deciding all these factors, and it is the BMS which is going to reply for all these kind of input signals. So if there is an input PWM signal, this BMS replies to that PWM signal with 16% of the PWM signal as the output. So if the 16% of the PWM signal is coming as the feedback for the charger understands that the vehicle can handle maximum of 10 ampere current. If the feedback signal is 25% of the input signal coming back from the charger, from the BMS, then it means the BMS can maximum allow 16 ampere current from the charger. And similarly, for 50% PWM feedback, it understands that it has 32 ampere as the maximum charge current capability. And if it is 90% PWM flag signal raise, it means it can handle it. The vehicle has fast charging capability. So this is how the communication between the charger and the vehicle happens at any point of time, right? And similarly, the proximity pilot, as I mentioned earlier, the proximity pin showcases, it helps the vehicle to understand whether the charging station is connected, and similarly, it helps the charger controller to understand whether the vehicle is connected, right? So the proximity pilot is connected there in the system. So globally, if you look at the standards, if you look at the standards applicable for all these kind of application, IEC 62196 2014 is one of the major standard for the plug socket outlet vehicle connectors, and IEC 62196 2016, that is one more standard applicable for dimensional capability and interchangeability requirements, for especially for people who are developing charging systems, right? Charging stations. Either it is a low voltage or high voltage. And 62196 standard specifically focuses on the interface interchangeability of the plugs, whether I can use one plug to other vehicle. And SAE J1772 specifically for the coupler, the connector, what we use for the EV application. And in India, we have AIS 138 Part 1, AIS 138 Part 2. These are all AC DC charging system technology standard. So I would definitely strongly recommend all the faculties who are working in charging system related projects to look at these standards, so that you will understand the requirements for a charging system. Either it is a low power charger or a high power charger, right? And when you look at the manufacturers who are available in the market today, right? Today, the market availability, the companies like Delta. So these companies available in the market with from 7 kilowatt to 22 kilowatt for the medium rated charger, and for the higher rating charger, for the higher kilowatt charger, they have from 25 kilowatt to up to 150 kilowatt. So with the 150 kilowatt at a time, we can charge 3 passenger cars, so that is the capability of these chargers. So already, I think you people are seeing these chargers in Kerala and different parts of Kerala, Cochin, even in Thrissur, I have seen some places they have installed these fast chargers. And so there are many chargers being installed nowadays from different companies. And what is that? What is the sort of work that a research scholar can do in this particular area? When you look at the charging system, right? So the challenge is the harmonics. So today, the end of the day, the problem arises most of the time with the harmonic control. So total harmonic control system, control of the charger. So we need to understand how the charger affects the grid side, or how the charger affects the battery side, right? So if you are a faculty or a research scholar working in a charging system or a charging system related project, or if you are thinking to work in this particular domain, so following all the areas which I would strongly recommend. One of the first area is to maintain the good power quality. So today there is a strong problem arising, especially in the Indian market, the maintaining a good power quality between the charger and the grid, right? And between the vehicle and the charger, both the side, the power quality requirement is very huge. So we need to look at the total harmonic disturbance arising from the system, and unless until if they are not properly controlled, then obviously safety related concerns are coming. So I would recommend us, the faculties, to start with a low end charger, two-wheeler chargers, which are operating in 48 volt or 24 volt ranges, and you can take typical chargers and understand first. Initially I would recommend you to study the charging behavior, right? Using some sort of measuring equipments, measure the voltage rating, measure the current rating, how the charger is behaving, the voltage and current behavior of the charger at a starting point of time, at the midpoint of charging, at the end of charging. Understand, I would recommend you people to understand the real time data, rather than just looking at papers, right? Most of the papers I am seeing that the values are not reliable, especially in IEEE. I am seeing the values which have come, which they have mentioned in the real time readings they have mentioned, they were not real time basically, right? It is not. We are working closely with the charging stations, actually, charging station as well as chargers and handy chargers. And I'm seeing that the data which they are mentioned in the IEEE papers, they are no more matching with exactly with the real-time readings, right? So I would strongly recommend you people to using the power analyzers, take the direct measurement from the system, measurement between the grid and the vehicle, and measurement between the vehicle and the charger, right? Measurement between the charger and the grid, charger and the vehicle, both the sides, and look at how the the total harmonic disturbance is there, and how to you can apply different methodologies to to improve the design, so I'm not exactly from the charger background, but definitely I know that today there are many failures. We are seeing many failures from the customer end, especially on the charger, either because of either it is not meeting the BMS requirement, it is keep on, the BMS keep on turning off, or shoots off, it raises false signal because of the problems from the charger. So many times what we see is the charger is actually not meant for that particular BMS or battery pack, right? So we can't say there is a standard charger. There is no such standard charger available in the market, but certain chargers, what they mention is this charger can be used for these 5 different models of the vehicle, or 7 different models of the vehicle. We can't use the charger for other model of the vehicle, that can create some sort of issue or degradation for the battery pack. So they clearly mention that. So in some cases, for the buses and trucks, for bigger end, in that cases, there will be a master slave concept. There will be a master charger and slave charger concept. So a master charger will control the slave chargers. End of the day, if there are like 100 vehicles, 100 buses standing in a depot, in future we will see one single master charger controlling 100 number of slave chargers, which is going to reduce end of the day the cost of the system. This is especially suitable for a fleet market where passenger more number of vehicles will be standing in a single point place. So that is the application where you can see. And this is a level of charger which is available in the low end category, low speed category. AC, DC both are available, but they cannot cross more than like 20 kilowatt, not more than that. That is the maximum availability. And this particular charger from Siemens, it is a 3.3 to 6.6 kilowatt charger, which is definitely a home charger. We can use this charger at home to charge a electric car, right? So this is all different other companies, just for you people to understand the different companies. Exicom, which is a well-known company in India today on the charging system domain, right? So that's about the charging system. So end of the day, when we look at the charging system as a whole, the major challenge is actually with the power quality issues only. Major challenge. So is there anyone working with power quality in this participants? Group of participants, are there anyone working with power quality or power quality related topics? Any participant? Are there anyone working with power quality standards or power quality related to system, these kind of systems? No. So if not, no issues, but definitely there is a huge scope in this area, right? So on the charging system side, so on analyzing the power quality between the the grid, from the grid to the vehicle, right, and charger, and from the vehicle to the charger level. So both these are very important. So the circuit which I once again I want to show you here. So overall, so that's the scope. Actually, end of the day, the working scope is there for this particular charging system area, and sizing, right sizing of each and every component. End of the day, right sizing of each component is very important in the charging system technology. So today there are like oversized components are available in the charging, and especially when you take the imported chargers, today the electric vehicle companies, they are mostly using the imported chargers for the two-wheeler and three-wheeler application, and all these chargers are having different rated voltages, and the rated volt, they can operate at a very extended voltage, right? At the same time, the advancements happened in this charging system transistors, especially today the gallium nitride switches, the gallium nitride IGB, these kind of systems, switch transistors, they are actually preferred, especially on the onboard charger and charging system components only, because today people want a very quick charging. They know they are not ready to wait for so much of time. So if they want to support quick charging, then obviously we need to work in a lightning speed, and obviously the gallium nitride switches right now, they are applicable for these onboard charger and the charging station technologies basically, whereas the silicon carbide based transistors were typically the switching frequency is close to 80, 100, 120, 130 kilohertz, where were preferably suitable for the control inverter areas. But the gallium nitride switches, which have the capability to operate more than 100 and up to around 150 kilohertz, right, at such a high frequencies, up to 1 megahertz possibilities are there using the gallium nitride switches. So those switches are already applied in some of the transistors of the Wolfspeed. Maybe I'll put that company's name, Wolfspeed. So that is one of the company which is supplying the transistors for Tesla vehicles, and so you can get into their website to look at their IGBT made up of silicon carbides or the gallium nitrates as well. So there are like extreme levels, 150 kilowatts up to 1 megahertz of switching frequencies were possible on the onboard charging network using the gallium nitride solution. So that's the thing. So what I would strongly recommend is to apply model based design system. You can apply model based methods, especially using MATLAB Simulink, and apply the real time, take the real time data from chargers which is available in the market. Using the vehicle, you take the real time data and apply the data into a model created in a MATLAB environment, and then start optimizing the charging system function, and improve the charging system efficiency at any component level, system level or subcomponent level. So that would be the better scope of work I would suggest, for the participants to work in near future for your charging system related projects. So is there any questions from the participants? Is there any questions from the participants in this particular area? Let me show you one video as well before closing this topic. Maybe you people would have seen this video, but just for a general scenario, I'm just placing this video here. So it's a typical fast charger which is available in the market. So one of the key area, one of the area where startup opportunities are there in India right now is actually to find this kind of to develop these kind of solutions. Actually, it's not the scope is not only in the charging station. It is also on the related whatever the systems related to the charging station in the human machine interface or the vehicle interface. These are all different areas where there is a good amount of opportunity in India right now, because very few companies are there which are actually providing solutions in this area. So if you are having an entrepreneurship idea and want to initiate something in this domain, definitely you can take some kind of you can become a technology provider in this particular areas.
Hello, sir. I am Suraj here from
Yes.
Leh Helios. I'm from Alapi. Sir, actually, we
Yes.
are basically into solar power plant integration, and we are about to start a EV charging, like fast charging integration as well. So,
Okay.
have you heard about Mass Charger, Mass company? It's from
Yes.
Chennai.
Mass Tech or Mass, that is different, or
Yeah, Mass. Mass
okay,
Tech. I
okay.
think it's
Yeah.
Mass. So we are about to use those chargers. So they are
Okay.
providing 30 kilowatt, 60 kilowatt, and 90 kilowatt capacity. So
Yes.
actually no, we are waiting for a good opportunity from our clients currently,
Okay.
and because of the COVID situation, there are many fund flow issues, and many issues are there. But still,
Yes.
we are waiting for it. And few in Kerala, there are for KCB they have done some
Yes.
projects.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and today's session, I was actually the reason why I joined this particular webinar. I mean, the entire section is for this particular section only, actually. And
Yes.
as it is in March, I was not able to focus on this thing. I'm still on the car. Okay. So,
Yes. Yes.
could you, if I give you a call personally, could you please guide me on this, if you don't
Definitely,
mind?
definitely. I think I have shared my contact number and email ID. So definitely, maybe from tomorrow you can contact me anytime, right? We can have a discussion.
All
Sure.
right, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes. 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 So as I mentioned, there are many opportunities. I think the company which you mentioned, Mass Chargers from Chennai, that company is very experienced, especially handling faults. Actually, I remember, I worked with one of the project with that company, especially on repairing some of the chargers which got damaged because of some over voltage issue. Happened for fleet operation. So they have a very good experience on fault diagnosing and repairing the chargers, because in India today, people are ready to import the chargers from. They are very easily importing it from China, but they don't have any question after importing. If there is any issue, if there is any sort of fault they are getting from the charger, they are not able to have a good team to for diagnose it. So definitely there is a huge scope for diagnostics and maintenance fault detection related aspects of charger or electric vehicle. So I would definitely recommend people to work in that area.
Sir, you have any particular document regarding like the integration of this, the system? I mean, for solar projects, we do have the policy here. KCB,
Yes.
our Discom, our utilities do have a policy here. And do you have any policy regarding this one? I mean, our Discom do have any policy regarding this? Are you aware about this?
Yes. So it is there, Mr. Actually, but the thing is, it is not still completed right now. State level BESCOMs, they have started initiating some process, but it is actually under the Central Electricity Authority, CEA. They are currently responsible for developing the regulation related to this, and the BIS is also now developing related charges, standards, actually protocols. So either you can visit these three websites. So one is Central Electricity Authority, and second one is Bureau of Energy Efficiency (BEE)
Okay. All
of
right.
India,
Okay.
or
Okay.
third option is you can visit the BIS website. All these agencies are actually preparing the protocols, standard
Which,
protocols for.
which was the last one you said?
Last one is our normal BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So CEA, Central Electricity Authority, or Bureau of Energy Efficiency, BEE or BIS.
I'll
Any
go through
of
it.
these.
Thank.
Yes. 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 So that's how a typical charging system will be. So we select either it is a DC charger requirement or AC charger requirement. So this is the HMI interface that we are talking about. So here, most of the electric vehicles, you will see that multiple plug configurations. Plug configurations will be there. Say this is a low speed, low power charger type, level 1, level 2 charger kind of applicable, and this is a fast charger plug, basically applicable for fast charging. So here he is using a fast charger. So immediately once we initiated the charger, as we saw that the communication happened between the charger and the vehicle through the pilot communication pin, it communicates with the charger, and it indicates that it comes to know that the vehicle is properly connected with the charger, and the vehicle is ready for charging. It can initiate the charging, and it will showcase what is the charging voltage, charging current, what is the rate of charging it is doing, and what is the available SOC of the battery. Everything will be clearly mentioned there. So the whole charging system has been designed as per the J1772 protocol, SAE protocol, because it is nothing but matching with the petrol station, a conventional petrol station. So that is what the J1772 protocol says for the charging system and coupler. So the same connector has is being used by multiple companies. So that's how the so now right now in the international level, the standardization is happening right now. So the international level, the market standardization is happening on the charging system development. So we can see that most of the companies are trying to use the similar, the same charging system technology for all type of vehicle. So that is what the problem is. If India is right now following the European norms as well as Chinese norms as well as Japanese norms. So India is very flexible for that. But if you say European countries and US, they are not flexible with the Japanese or Chinese standard. They want their own standard. So European country, they have created the separate CCS, combined charging system standard. So there is a change happening in the trend on the global level. In India is also creating its own charging station standard. As I mentioned, kindly visit those websites which I mentioned earlier to understand the charging standards which I mentioned. So that's all about the session. So if you have any questions related to this, kindly let me know. And I'm once again, I'm showcasing my contact number and email ID. If someone missed it to note it down, you can kindly note it down. And if there is any question related to this, kindly let me know in the chat box. And one more thing I forgot to showcase, on the first day itself. Let me just open that. So coming 5th, 6th, and 7th, coming April 5, 6, 7, there is a high voltage vehicle safety expert training happening with certification from ASDC, Automotive Skill Development Council. The program is happening on 5, 6, 7, but basically the program is very flexible. So actually it is basically you will be getting a certification from ASDC, Skill Development Council of Automotive Skill Development Council of India, where it is basically for professionals who are actually working in the research, development, and the activities related to electric vehicle projects in present or near future. Right, so there is a level 2 certification. Basically, it's a 3-day program. Basically, after this program, we will be providing the complete training content, and there will be a complete video recording. If someone unable to attend the session on the second day due to the election or anything, any reason, they can get the recording completely for the session. And there will be assessment happening for this training on month of April 15th. So whoever finished the training on April 5, 6, 7, they will be able to attend the assessment on the date of April 15th. And if he misses April 15th, the next month it will be happening. So he can get the certification after completing the assessment, scoring minimum 70% mark. The assessment will be directly conducted by ASDC using a proctored software. So if anyone need to know the detailed information about this certification training of high voltage vehicle expert for electric vehicle domain, so you can reach us to the email ID which is specified there and the number specified there. So that's just an additional information because this is the first training happening in India because this is a very important skill set required for electric vehicle related people who are working in the electric vehicle related project. So in this training, it is actually we are following the German level 2 standards specified for electric vehicle projects. So the similar protocol is followed in the training. Totally, it is a 10-hour training meeting the requirements. So if anyone interested in such training, kindly feel free to reach us for more information. So even if anyone not available for the second day or third day, any one of the day sessions, the recorded sessions will be available. Who can feel free to look at it, refer to that. So that option is also available. So any more questions? Any more questions from participants? Any questions from participants? So I think tomorrow the discussions will be on thermal management, regenerative braking, and we will also be talking about on the next consecutive day, we'll be talking about modeling and simulation. We will be using some electric vehicle model-based simulations, and also understand testing and certification requirements of electric and hybrid vehicles. That's the upcoming schedule planned in the next coming days. So over to you, ma'am.
Okay, sir. I hope there are no more questions. This session has come to an end. Thank you, Prashant sir. Thank you, participants. Tomorrow's session will start at 9:30 AM. See you all tomorrow. Thank you, sir.